Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all doing good and well. So we're at that time of the year already, the time of the year when I count down my top 20 albums of the year. This time of course we're dealing with 2023. Last year's winner was Persephone with Melinkolya, so we will wait to see what is my winner this year as I make my way down my list from 20 down to number 1. Just a few things to say up front. There are lots of albums that I've missed this year, to be honest. I mean, that's the case every year. You can't listen to absolutely everything. If there's a release or an album that you're really hoping to see on my list and it's not on here, I'm sorry about that. Why don't you recommend it in the comments to me? What I'll say though is I don't think it's always a bad thing if you miss a big release or a popular release from a list, because it's bound to be on lots of other lists, right? So I think it's good sometimes to have a bit of variety or albums which may be a little bit more unexpected to appear on my list. On that note as well, my lists are multi-genre. They're not all metal and rock selections. You do occasionally get some other stuff appearing, some of my wildcard choices, I like to call them. Honourable mentions wise, this year I'm going to do what I did last year. I'm going to do honourable mentions, I think, as a separate video. So I'm just focused on my top 20 countdown, my top 20 albums from the year. So, with all that being said and done, I do have most of the CDs, but there's a few I don't own, which are generally the ones near the sort of upper end of my list. So at number 20, I don't own this one. Number 20, here we go, we're going to start now, is Inherits the Void with the Impending Fall of the Stars. Really good melodic black metal album, actually, from start to finish. I think even if you like your black metal kind of hard and heavy and intense, you'll still enjoy this one, even though it does have doses of atmosphere here and there. It's really, really strong. Really good stuff from start to finish. I really enjoyed Palingenesis, Where the Oceans Lost Their Light, While the Night Seizes the Burning Sun. Great tracks there, great titles of those tracks there. And that's my number 20, sneaking in, just making it into the top 20. Inherits the Void, the Impending Fall of the Stars. Coming in at number 19 is a collaboration album by Midwife and Vyva Melinkolya, some droney shoegaze for you here. This was their album Orbweaving. Really great album. I think this is a great collaboration, actually. This was inspired by their experiences doing something called herping during the pandemic. And this was just a really good, shoegaze album. And I like the way that you had kind of captivating vocals combined with the alluring soundscapes on this release. Just really good stuff front to back. Really enjoyed this one. For those of you with a taste for ambient kind of shoegaze, I think droney shoegaze, you'll really dig this. Great album coming in at number 19. Number 18, we move on to Ukrainian band Ignea. This is their concept album, Dreams of Lands Unseen, very much thematically inspired by, I think, the experiences of Sofia Yablonska, a Ukrainian documentarian and writer, and her travel experiences, all kind of based on that. Love the album artwork actually there as well. Really good album. I love Hel Bogdanova's singing on here, and her growls as well, but I really like her sort of singing and this sort of exotic style of vocals that she does on the album. Really fits in with the themes and everything. It just feels like a really good journey, this album. I really enjoyed the theme particularly, and it makes it to my number 18. And yes, I own the CD of that one. The next one I don't own the CD of, 17, is Death of Giants with Ventesorg. This is a debut doom metal album project. Really good, very devastating, because it's about a really personal loss to the guy behind this music, more than Service Kogan, but really great. I love the way that this song, Only the Good Die Young by Iron Maiden, has been completely reimagined here. It's been slowed down and made into a bit of a doom metal kind of operatic track, and it's really great. It's fantastic, I think. Very emotional, but really clever reworking of the Iron Maiden classic song. So I highly recommend you do give Death of Giants Ventesorg a chance if you can. That's my number 17 pick. Coming up at number 16, I've got the CD on the way, but it hasn't arrived yet. This is Spine by Myrkur. And this is well, it's kind of her atmospheric black metal style a little bit, but it's very blended with folk and a lot of 80s pop I can hear in this album as well, but I have no problem with that, no issue with that whatsoever. Absolutely love it. I think she's pulled off the sort of, she's gotten a lot of emotion. I think her experiences as a mum have come into this album. I've read that anyway. Not sure if it's 100% true, but I believe her experiences as a mum have somewhat inspired this particular release. And it's really great. I particularly love Moth-like, and Valkyrian has sang as well on this album. Another really good album. Coming in at number 16, we move on to number 15, which is Slowdive's Everything is Alive. Not quite as amazing as predecessor, their Slowdive comeback self-titled album, which was fantastic. This is still really good though. It's a bit more ambient, a bit more electronic. I think that you know, there's a bit more emphasis on those elements in this album, but still a cracking Slowdive album. I still don't think they ever missed. They never put out anything bad. They're one of those bands you can guarantee will put out something good. If you don't know Slowdive, they're a shoegaze band, but one of the original shoegaze bands, one of the classics. An album worth checking out if you've got a taste for that kind of stuff. Number 14, we have Insomnium Anno 1696. An album inspired by the sort of witch trials in history from the 17th century, and another really good sort of thematic kind of an album like that. But this one, you know, I feel like it's one of the darker, slightly black metal tinged Insomnium albums in places, but it's still Insomnium, and it's still as consistently good as any of their albums ever are or have been. Another band, very consistently good. Really enjoyed this. I think I loved White Christ. I believe it was the track God Forsaken that I particularly liked on here. Great album, again from these Finnish melodic death metal masters. Number 13, we have sort of the heavier side of death metal from an all-women band called Crypta. And this is their release, Shades of Sorrow. Great album, loved it. In fact, I had this spin 3 times back-to-back in the car because I was stuck in a traffic jam. But it helped the time to pass pretty quick despite me being stuck in traffic for hours on end. I got lots of Crypta and I had no problem with that whatsoever. Some great riffery here. I love Fernanda Lira's vocals on this album. She really gets, you know, really kind of aggressive. Lots of great stuff on there. That's my number 13, right? Keeping count. Number 12, I wouldn't have expected necessarily to have this as high up on my list, and it's got on this high up, I think, because I have been back to it a lot. And it's a sort of classic heavy metal sounding styled album by this band called Night Demon with Outsider. Pretty catchy. I have been singing to myself a lot the title track Outsider, you know, outsider, solitary is the path. It's a really great song. Yeah, I like that album cover art actually quite a bit as well. Suits the album. Really good. Not a long album. Doesn't outstay its welcome. It's just banging tracks and very, very enjoyable. We moves us on to number 11, which is an album I didn't review. It was very, very popular when it came out. I saw a lot of reviewers giving this high scores. When I did get round to this in the summer at some point, I realised, yes, I had missed out. I've missed out. This is Hellripper with their album Warlock's Grim and Withered Hags, right? And this is a hell of an album, and it's a ripper of an album. So it's a Hellripper album, I guess, right? Okay. And really great tracks on here. Goat Vomit Nightmare, I think I love that track. I really liked Poison Wound, I think the penultimate one. Again, pretty cool cover art on there. I know it's kind of back to front on the way I'm filming this, but yeah, awesome stuff by Hellripper. Now we're moving on to the top 10. We're on the top 10, right? Number 10 is Mitski with The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We. So this is a wild card, right? This is a bit of a wild card, this one, on the list. This was my introduction to this singer-songwriter Mitski, and her stuff is kind of it's pretty melancholic, it's pretty sad sounding, but her songwriting is very, very strong. I'd say that, you know, I was never bored. I was always taken in by this album, always immersed in every word she was singing. And although it's quite dark, I think in places she does lighten the mood a little bit here and there on the album, so it's not all dark and depressing all the way through or anything like that. It's just really quite beautifully done and very soulful. I really like Heaven, The Frost and Star as my favourite tracks from this Mitski album. Yeah, highly recommend that if you're looking for something a bit different, maybe from just the heavier picks on this list. But yeah, Mitski at number 10. Number 9, we have Vertebra Atlantis, one of the more recent albums I reviewed as well. This is a dialogue with the Eerius Sublime. And I pointed out how much I love that artwork, right? But the album itself is also pretty fantastic. It's pretty great. On repeat listens, I'm still really digging this, even though it's quite a late release in the year as well. Yeah, so many good tracks on here, 7 tracks in fact. It's not a super long album. The one that I think is the icing on the cake moment, this has been a year with really great album closers, and the album closer, A Dialogue with the Eerie Sublime, on this album is sublime. It's fantastic, and I highly recommend you check out the Vertebra Atlantis release from this year. All right, that moves us on to another quite surprise pick at number 8. We have got Elysian. Okay, and this is Bring Out Your Dead. Now, I don't think I gave this a very high score, as I recall. It's probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10, or somewhere in between, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. But every song on this album, I feel the passion in the vocal delivery, particularly from Christiana Hatzinehaly. I think out of all the stuff I've heard from them so far, it might be the best. This is only their 3rd album, I believe, but it's got stuff like Crossing Over, Far Away, As the Flower Withers. I like Raid the Universe a lot as well. Just lots of really good, tight songs. I mean, I would say there's not always a lot of development in the tracks. Like, they're sort of very formulaic, but they're so effective and so well executed that the tracks are kind of infectious to the point you want to keep listening to them again and again. And that's what I found with this Elysian album, this Bring Out Your Dead album. Really good stuff. Gothic metal, if you're not familiar with them. Kind of gothic metal fronted by Christiana Hatzinehaly. We take us to number 7. We're getting very brutal now. We're getting super brutal. Get that mosh pit ready. This is Dying Fetus with Make Them Beg for Death. And this is this is really hard-hitting stuff. The thing I love about Dying Fetus as a band, or certainly their recent releases, I've found that they have just enough, a lot of death metal bands, they don't always get super creative with their riffage for me to keep me on board, which is where Dying Fetus, I love them because they get very creative with all the different guitar riffs. Some great stuff on here. I love Compulsion for Cruelty, Feast of Ashes, Undulating Carnage, Subterfuge. There's a lot of really, really great stuff on here. Really hits hard, as I say. I mean, that's about all there is probably to say about this, but they're on a real good run of form at the moment, this band, for me, in death metal, and I'm sure if you're a death metal fan, this one won't have passed you by either. Great album, number 7. Coming in at number 6, an album I did give a very high score to as well. This is Cloak. And this is Black Flame Eternal. Really, really great stuff here from Cloak. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. Favourite tracks include Invictus and The Holy Dark. It's sort of a gothic style of their black metal. I do think it's the best thing I've maybe heard from them yet. So yeah, Cloak, Black Flame Eternal is my number 6 choice. Okay, here we go. Here's the big one. She is apparently the UK's answer to Taylor Swift. And I say that I don't know Taylor Swift super well. But what I do know is this. I listen to this album, I've listened to it a lot, and I really, really love it. And it's out of place a bit after the last few picks on this list. But I don't care, because I love this album. Macy Peters and The Good Witch, right? It's going to be up in the top right-hand corner there, the image anyway. I just really dug this. I think the songwriting's really good. I love the way that she is sort of really brutally honest in her lyrics, and she still gets across a sort of sense of humour and everything in her tracks. I particularly love Body Better, which is an absolutely genius pop song. The way what she's done here is made a song which is about body image insecurity into an absolute banger of a catchy pop song. It's just really good. I actually recommend this. If you don't mind pop music, or if it's got that sort of modern pop production, which I'm not always so big on, but because the songs are so great, I don't really care. I think it's really good. So there you go. That's the wild card. That's the biggest wild card on this list for sure this year. Move on to number 4, a band that never disappoint. They don't do a bad album. They rarely do a bad song, really. This is Enslaved and Heimdall. A band that always seem to deliver the goods, and this is no exception. I will say there are a couple of tracks already new from their EP before I got around to Heimdall, but as a listening experience, I love listening to this album start to finish. I really get the experience of a lot of Enslaved albums, but I don't like to just dip into an Enslaved album. I like to listen to the whole Enslaved album, and Heimdall is no exception. What another brilliant album. I really like that last track on here with that outro riff. You know the one I'm talking about. If you've listened to this album, you'll know exactly the guitar riff I'm talking about. It's freaking awesome. Next up, we have at number 3, we're getting close to the top. It's getting to that time when we're going to know my number 1. Are you excited? I hope you are. Anyway, doesn't matter, I suppose, if you're not. But Entheos, Time Will Take Us All is my number 3. And you've got some really great stuff on here. The opening track is maybe my favourite opening, so I'm going to have to think about this, but I think it has my favourite album opener of 2023 on here, Absolute Zero, which has this face-melting guitar riff, this technical death metal guitar riff. Okay, if you're not familiar with these guys, this is tech death. And it is ferocious. I love the proggy elements in here. There's all sorts of jazz fusion moments going on. Cheney Crab sounds incredible. Absolute banger of a tech death album from Entheos, one to check out. Now we move on to number 2. Number 2 is a bit of a wild card as well. This one, actually, thinking about it. I interviewed their singer, frontman, I think, the sort of, you know, vocalist and guitarist Charles Sale, like a few months ago, I think in September. This is Baba Ganoush. Okay, and this is Jumbo Pets. And this is a really good sort of indie rock, indie pop album. Draws on a lot of influences. You can hear a lot of different influences, but I like the album. I think the album still flows pretty well together, despite its kind of different styles. You get a little bit of country, a little bit of folk, a little bit of indie, all sort of tied in together to this package. And the album's been knocking around for a while. I think they've been working on it, maybe working on it for a while. It's their debut album, although they've been around for a while. They have released a few EPs in the past. I think it's really great stuff on here. Lots of memorable tracks, really good. Thoroughly deserves its number 2 spot. And if you're watching this, Charles, yep, you made it up nice and high on my list. Well done, man. And well done to all the bands. Hatchie is in that band as well. I'm a big fan of Hatchie's, Harriet Pilbeam. Coming up, at number 1, the number 1 album of the year. I was just going to reveal it really quickly. I thought I've got to have a bit of a build-up, right, before I reveal my number 1. Now, this was my 10 out of 10 score, so I think a number of you might have been able to guess this was going to be number 1. But this is the album that honestly blew me away the most out of all these other albums, which had their moments on which I've absolutely loved and could perhaps on another day maybe be number 1, I don't know. But this is truly the album that has really blown me away. Tesseract's War of Being. So prog metal makes it to my number 1. I think that's the 3rd year maybe we've had a prog metal album. Maybe it will change next year. I was actually hoping it might not be a prog metal album this year, but this was too good. It was just too damn good to not be number 1. Loved the experience of listening to this. So many cracking tracks. The album closer, another phenomenal album closer on this one called Sacrifice. And to be honest, this might not have been number 1 up to the point of hearing that album closer. That closed the album so well. It sort of closed the curtains on the album so brilliantly, so effectively, with such a great climax. This was the album where I thought, yeah, that's the album. That's the one that's going to be my album of the year. It will take some beating. Tesseract, War of Being is my album of the year. Thanks, guys, as always, for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to drop a like and a sub if you enjoy my content. And yeah, otherwise, until next time, from me, till the honourable mentions maybe, unless I decide to do the honourable mentions first before I put up this video, I don't know. But otherwise, bye for now.